Okay, welcome everybody to the Active Success Training. Today is Saturday, October, just a minute, I can get it. October 19th, Saturday, October 19th, it's 8:30 a.m. Pacific time. And most every Saturday, unless we announce otherwise, you will find us here learning success guide principles to move our businesses forward and to move our lives forward. Today, I'm super excited to bring to you a presentation on visualization and goals. I'm sorry, I have something in my throat. only started when I started recording, you guys. Why am I so excited about this? It's my absolute belief that this is the most important training that anybody ever has, right? And if you can get this one thing down, you will succeed in your life, no matter what your goals are. But it starts here. It starts with the consistency, because if you're strong mentally, you'll be able to get through all of the ups and downs of being an entrepreneur, and you will win in the long run. It's a strategy, but a lot of times people will start doing some visualizations. They'll stop because they're saying, well, hey, I succeeded in something, so I don't have to do this anymore. They'll stop, and then they'll go back to bad habits. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But, I think that this is really a foundational training. And if you get really, really, really good at this and controlling your mind up here, in being strong mentally, then the rest of all of the activity that you put in motion for your business will come to you over time, right? But this is the one most important thing that we have to start with. And I know that, I'm just going to say real quick, I know a lot of people think visualizations are like a little woo-woo, but I'm here to tell you that they can get a little woo-woo, but they have scientific validation behind them. And there is not one top elite athlete in the world that doesn't visualize their performance on a regular basis. And they see it, right? They understand intuitively, emotionally, what they need to do to get to the place that they are going to, whether it's a running, if it's a race or biking or swimming, they've seen it. And they've spent hours and hours and hours in their life visualizing the outcomes of their performances. And you hear this all the time, but it really starts with creating or establishing some goals. And I'm calling this incremental goals, because a lot of times what will happen is that you'll say, hey, what are your goals? And you might say, hey, I want a beachfront house in Mexico, and I want it to be 3 bedrooms, 3 baths, and I want a beautiful landscape area, and that's my goal, right? And that's a big goal, and it's not like it's not achievable, but how do you get there? So I really feel like creating these incremental goals, and the goals that are going to get you to those big goals are so important. And so you want to really create realistic goals, because you can dream of a big house on the beach forever and ever and never get it, because you don't have in place the patterns or the little steps that you need to take. You don't win a Olympic game just by realizing the finish line, holding the trophy. It starts with, the hours of practice during the day. And I hope I can get through this. Excuse me. So, but I think a lot of times with visualization and goals, people go really big, but they don't know how to chunk it down to the daily activity that really wins the game. And so that's what we're doing today. You know, and when you're setting incremental goals, it's really at the very basic level of, you know, what time do you wake up in the morning? How much time are you spending on your business, getting it on your calendar? How many people are you talking to today? These are the types of goals, the activity that gets you to the big wins, right? So, and one of the things I like to share with people is that a lot of times you'll set a monetary goal, like I want to be making $10,000 a month, or, you know, $2,500 a month in residual income month after month. But I think at the very beginning, your first goal, and we should be teaching everyone, should just be simply, let's make a sale or get a customer or get a rep or somehow get some commission. It just starts at that basic level, and that puts a lot less, you know, pressure on people when they're starting out on a business, and it actually directs their mind to the activity that's needed to create for success, right? So so these incremental goals are really something that you need to establish at the very beginning when you start this the visualization process and the basic goals. So here are the basics of visualization. It's interesting, and this is where the science comes into this, and that when you speak something out loud, it triggers an auditory learning process. And when you do that, there's about a 20% retention rate of what you spoke and what you retain in your brain, right? When you visualize, it triggers the brain to actually believe what it's seeing. And I'm going to do a little experiment with you guys in a minute that's going to kind of hopefully, you know, demonstrate this. But when you can visualize it in your brain, you know, your brain doesn't really distinguish whether it's true or not true. And because you're just telling your subconscious mind, hey, this is what I believe is true. This is what is. And this is how you visualize. And in that, it's 100% retention. What goes in your brain retains. And you know this because as you were growing up, you know, you're getting told good things and bad things, but you are retaining this information. And that's where our negative self-doubt patterns come from. And, you know, the things that we say, whether they're good or bad, the things that we think come from the things that come into our brain through our lifetime. And when there's emotion to it, then it really impacts us, right? It changes our behavior. And so we can reverse engineer that process by creating what we want in our brain and what we want to establish there. So, you know, it's about the thought process. And when we do this, the activity that creates, the action that creates the activity that creates the energy, and you're adding emotion to it, then you can rewire the subconscious brain. And I have a little story I was watching, and this was a while ago. I was watching the movie called I think it's The Great Samurai. And there was music involved in that. And that movie had a lot of challenges that they went through, the ups and downs that were really related to a period of time I was in. I got really emotional about that. And because I had an emotional reaction to the music, then I can take that music and use it as a background for visualization. That adds energy to the process. And you do need energy, and you do need the emotion for the visualization to stick in your brain. And another way of creating emotion is through a vision board. It doesn't have to be a vision board necessarily, but you can use, you can create incremental goals. You can put pictures and stuff up on, you can put a list up on your refrigerator. It doesn't really matter if it's in a pretty, presentation, but, you have goals, and you have big goals and small goals. You have incremental goals, you have milestone goals. And as you put these goals together, as you get closer to them, you can put them into your daily visualization, because we're going to be talking about a daily visualization process. And so you don't want to put the big goals necessarily on this daily visualization, but you might have that house on the beach, or that Ferrari that you want, or the vacation that you want. You might be wanting to go to Greece. You might be wanting to have true health, run a 5K race. It doesn't really matter what that goal is. I mean, it's your personal goal. It's something that you have emotion behind, but it's not like when you start the process, you're going to get there right away, right? So as you get closer, though, let's say you're getting closer to a rank you want to achieve. Let's say an A6 rank, right? You can put the A6 rank, let's say if you're at A4, you can start putting the A6 rank in your daily visualizations, and then you can start visualizing what that would mean to you. An A6 rank, you're going to feel awesome about it, but really what's it going to mean is that you can visualize being at convention and walking on stage or speaking on stage, and how that feels, or because you're going to actually get a bonus with that, you can put that up on the board and say, when I get to A6, I'm going to have this bonus, a rank advance bonus, and I will be able to take my family to Disneyland, or whatever it is that will be a result of you attaining that goal. But, when you're at the very beginning and you start out as a distributor or A1 position, putting an A6 might be a little far out. But you want to get there. But as you get closer, just add it to your visualization, your board. And this is where you can have pictures that create emotion. So you can have music that creates emotion, pictures that create emotion, but emotion is part of the whole process. Is like, what does it mean to me? Like my whole goal is I love to travel. And the most important thing in the world is for me to travel with my family. So my goals are around traveling with my family and having that experience of seeing new cultures and things like that. I get very emotional about that because I get so much out of doing that. And so that's what I love to do. But everybody has their own path on this. So just remember to, you put your big goals out there, put them on the refrigerator, have them there, but when you get closer, put them into an incremental process where you can start visualizing that next step that gets you there. And then you want to understand that the emotion, right, is what will get your brain rewired, and it takes time to do this. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in a minute. So here's the exercise, you guys. If you're writing down notes or anything, put your pens down, but I want you to close your eyes for a moment and put both of your hands out in front of you, just out like this, right? And then I want you to close your eyes. I want you to take a deep breath. And I want you to see in your mind that I am in front of you and I'm putting a briefcase around on one of your hands, right? And that briefcase has your laptop in it. You're going to do a presentation, and you have some notepads in it, and you're getting ready to walk out the door, right? And you can feel the weight of it because, laptops are not that light. And then on the other hand, visualize I'm tying a string around your finger, and that at the end of that string is a balloon, a big red balloon. And as I'm tying the string, you can feel me wrapping the string around your finger. And as I let go of the string, you can feel the balloon rising up and bringing your hand up. And you're looking up and seeing how it's rising up in the sky. And in the other hand, you have the weight of your briefcase. And then if you, now you can open your eyes, and if you we're open to this, you can see one hand should be lower than the other, right? This is an exercise that just kind of shows that this does work in the mind's eye. You didn't have a balloon on one hand, you didn't have a briefcase on the other hand, but you could feel it and you could see it in your mind's eye. And this is how visualization works. This is how athletes, elite athletes, create visualizations that get them across their goal line. This is how top earners create goals that get them into that top earner category. And so how do we do this? And it's really about interrupting the patterns that we have established in our lives. You know, like for me, I get up every morning. I try to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, right? I set my alarm for 5 o'clock. I also have an alarm set for 5:15 and another one set for 5:30, right? And that alarm goes off and it's like, and it's like, okay, just hit snooze, right? And then the next alarm goes off and I do the same damn thing. And it's over and over, right? And so that's a pattern that I've established. And I need to change that pattern, because what I realized, if I wake up at 5:30, I don't have enough time in my morning to get my visualizations in, to start my network marketing business, and then to get to work, right? And then to do my exercise, get to work. So I need that extra time. So I have to interrupt that pattern. And the first thing that you're gonna, how to do it, now I just started this, recognize that this is something that I have to work on, is that you just sit, as soon as you hear that alarm and you want to go and reach the pause, you know, or the snooze alarm, you just say in your brain, cancel, 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 right? And because you have to break the pattern of reaching over to the phone and hitting snooze. So the first thing is that you have to cancel, you have to be aware enough to cancel the pattern. You have to interrupt it from happening. There's also something that Mel Robbins, she's a gifted lecturer, motivational speaker. Many of you guys have seen her before, or you've seen maybe her TEDx talks or her other videos. She's pretty amazing. She has this 5-second rule, right? That you get up and within 5 seconds, you know, you have to get up and you get your feet on the ground. And that breaks this cycle also. It's that activity of just saying, I'm up, and it takes 5 seconds. You have to do it within that 5 seconds, or your brain goes back into that pattern that needs to be interrupted, right? It's like, I'll get up, you know, in 15 minutes. And, but, you know, if you can get your body moving and your eyes open in that first 5 seconds, it changes everything. So one of the things I learned recently, and this is very interesting, because we've all heard a lot about how 21 days is where you really, that you have to do something consistently for 21 days to really establish a new habit, right? And so I've done things for 21 days and then it's like, okay, this isn't working, right? And so after, you know, a month or 2 months, I'm not seeing a result that I'm looking for. And then I go back to my old habit. And I said, I guess that didn't work. But what I learned recently is that 21 days is needed to establish a new habit, but it takes 18 months to rewire the physiology of the brain to make it, to create a different pattern that you're actually doing, right? That becomes intuitive to who you are. And it's interesting because as you set goals, and I know many of you guys have set goals throughout your life, and not necessarily about a business, but just about, you know, hey, I want to take a vacation, or every 5 years, you know, I used to set these 5-year goals where I was right now, where I wanted to be in 5 years. And then I put that away and I started doing the activity that created the result, right? Because you can't just set a goal and not change if you want to change something through that goal process. And what I didn't realize is that because I was so passionate about the end result, the 5-year plan, I was doing it for 18 months. And that's where the rewiring of the brain happens. And then it takes 30 months when you start something, right, to get really good at it. And I put the example of social media in here, but it could be anything, right? And this is where that 10,000 hours that I can't remember the guy's name, but he wrote Outliers. And but he talks about, it takes 10,000 hours to become a master at something, right? And this is that 30 months, about 30 months. So if you say you want to get good at social media, or you want to get good at creating relationships, communicating, or changing something that is a pretty different thing from where you are, it's going to take time to do it, right? And then 3 to 5 years to be a top earner. And I put this in here because I think it's important to understand that no one, some people get lucky, right? Let's just be honest about that. Some people get lucky, they can be a top earner 6-8 months in, and like, wow, what happened? They just exploded. I want to do that, right? But for most people, it doesn't happen that way. And you have to really understand that it takes time, it takes consistency, it takes a system. And you have to have strategy to go through that process. So what is that strategy actually? That strategy is that, and I'm going to go through a daily visualization checklist with you, kind of, that I'm using right now. I want to share that with you. And then I'll post that as a PDF later this afternoon when I post the recording of this call. But you want to have a structure. You want to stick with the structure, right? If you have a visualization process, then you want to stick with this until you master it, right? A lot of times, and this has happened with me, I'll see something that someone has given me, or I've been mentored by someone. They say, hey, do this. And then I take what they've given me and I tweak it. I change it. It's like, this doesn't really work for me. I'm going to put this here. I'm not going to do that because I don't really feel it. And when I do that, especially for something that has had proven results, then I change things that I don't realize that I'm changing the result that could happen too. So I'm going to encourage you in the next couple of slides. I'm going to go through this. I'm going to encourage everyone here just to stick with this structure until you master it, right? And then I would need you to also understand that to commit the 30 minutes per day, first thing in the morning, and there is science behind the first thing in the morning thing, that when you are first wake up, right, your brain is in a theta state, and that state you become more receptive to, or you have more receptivity to connecting with your subconscious, right? It's like that state right before you go to bed, or right when you're waking up and you're kind of tired. So in the morning, grab a cup of coffee, grab a tea, grab an energy drink, whatever you do in the morning, and go in and commit to the 30 minutes in visualization every single day. And this also goes back to a couple of weeks ago when we trained on prioritizing your calendar, right? Because this needs to go in your calendar as a daily activity. And a lot of times when you're doing this on a consistent basis, I'm going to say 5 days a week, you can do it 7 days a week, but I also think that people need to have breaks in their life. But, do this consistently on a weekly activity. And then every single week, when I'm going to share with you this checklist, you're going to want to tweak this, right? Because when you're self-aware and you're conscious of the challenges that your mind's telling you have on a weekly basis, you want to address those challenges, those negative self-talks, the things that sabotage you in your daily activity. And so you want to be tweaking it and adding the limiting beliefs in there so you can change them and conquer those. And let's see, it's about and this is something really interesting that I think that it's important to say, is that success is not necessarily how hard someone works, but it's more about the mindset and how they are attracting people. And I was talking to one of my mentors recently, and we were talking about this, and he actually said that he's tracked this in his organization. And because there's a daily accountability in his program where people are filling out this form and submitting them on a weekly basis, then he can track in his back office the people that are actually engaged in a 30 minutes of visualization, rather 10 or 15 minutes. Also, the people that are tweaking this once or once a week and are aware of their limiting beliefs. And he said that in his back office, he could actually track the data on the people that didn't do visualizations. Where, if they, let's say, both people had an hour and a half a day that they were putting into their business, that the people that were working an hour and 20 minutes on their business and 10 minutes on visualization versus someone that was working an hour in their business and 30 minutes on visualization, the people that had that longer period of visualization and was more self-aware, they were actually enrolling more people than the person that was working harder. And so part of this is really understanding that dynamic and that strategy that, when you can see it in your mind's eye, it puts you in that state where you're attracting the people that you're envisioning, right? You're attracting the professional people, the doctors, the lawyers, the accountants, the school teachers, the people that are people that you want to attract to your business. So here is the visualization. There's 2 pages of this. I'm going to kind of go through this a little quickly because I know we're running out of time, but I will be posting this with a recording later. But at the very beginning, right, you have to say when you're going to start your day, right? That's super important. And I know a lot of people when they, I'm getting close to retirement myself, be retired in a few months. And it's like in my back of my mind is like, hey, I get to retire. No one's going to tell me when to wake up, right? But the thing is that I need to tell myself when I'm going to start my day, right? And I have to have that energy to do that. This is something that I'm struggling with right now, as I mentioned before, with my little snooze problem and that pattern interrupt issue that I'm having right now. But I'm working on this, and that also doing my daily visualizations every morning. So my goal is to wake up at 5 o'clock, and then my second goal in the morning is to start my visualizations at 5:15, right, for a half hour. And that puts me on track to a great day and a lot of success. And I love the energy and the feeling I have because right off the gate, I've accomplished something, right? And that sets the pattern for the day. And then I want to identify any of my negative thoughts, and I'm telling you, I have a few. And then I want to take those negative thoughts and I want to recreate them into a visualization where it's going to help me empower me to resolve those, right? So I might say, if I say, I feel like I have a problem with communicating, right? And that goes way back in my history because we used to stutter and I had speech therapy. I got made fun of. So I learned not to speak out loud, right? So this is one of the things that I have in my brain from when I was a little kid, and that I know it's not true, and I have to overcome this, but it's a negative thought that's just implanted. So that's one of the things, like, I'm empowered by my words, and I share freely and communicate openly, right? So those are I can visualize myself talking to people, even in front of a crowd or something, and I have the perfect words and the language and what I want to say. So that's a visualization track. Then a lot of people get through their morning, done my visualizations, and they don't have a place where they start their day in network marketing. And this is super important because the activity is the only thing that you're going to need to focus on to bring results, right? If you do visualization without starting your network marketing day, it's not going to work. I'm just going to be honest with you, right? So if you're saying, and this goes back to the last couple of weeks, we've been training on various things with belief and scheduling. If you're part-time, you should be committed to reaching out and connecting and prospecting 10 people a day, right? I know that sounds big and scary and stuff, but next week we're going to talk about social media. We're going to get everybody here and share with everybody how this can work and not take a lot of time. And then, part of it is like, hey, visualizing, I'll transfer incredible belief and passion as I prospect a minimum of 10 people a day part-time. If you're full-time, you should be prospecting 30 people a day. And you can do this in a half hour or so, right? It doesn't take a long time. But you're working with warm market, social media people, people that you know, people that you meet. A lot of times it's people that you're attracting to you through this process, right? So, because of who you are, people are coming to you and say, hey, I want to hear more about what you're doing. I love how you look, all of that stuff. And then the fourth thing is about prospecting, understanding when you're prospecting 10 people a day. I'm part-time, so my goal is to prospect 10 people a day. That's 50 people a week, right? About 10% of that number is going to be interested in getting the more information, right? So that means I have, I'm prospecting, 50 people a week. I'm following up with, I'm not following up with 50 people. I'm following up with the 5 people a week that actually show interest. And next week, when we get into social media, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some scripts and stuff that you can use to help you go through this process really quickly. And this is a social media or meeting people in public. You can take this information however you decide to run your business, right? Whether it's one-to-one contact or in social media, it's all good. And then that you average at least so many signups per month. So this needs to be in your visualization, right? Because what you're doing is you're setting up the mindset and how this looks for you until it becomes so, right? And so if you're prospecting, 50 people a week, that's 200 people a month. That means, about 20 people that you're engaged with on a monthly basis, and 10%, you're going to be signing up 2 to 3 people a month through this process, right? Part-time, that's pretty good for a part-time person. Now, a lot of people will exceed this, right? But this is like minimum. And as you get better at all of this, you get your ratio, it gets higher, right? And this builds confidence in the system, and it's something that you can duplicate with your team. And then another thing that you want to say to yourself is that, yeah, I'm coachable and I practice what I'm taught. This is a big deal because if you're not willing to be coachable and to go through this process and to be accountable for this, then that's like another block that you have. That's a pattern that you need to interrupt, because it's obviously not going to bring, if people think they can do this on their own in their way, there's experience and knowledge out there that says that if you follow a certain system, you're going to have more success, right? And then when you reach a goal, and that's why you start out with these small incremental goals, right? Hey, I want to hit A2, or I want to, sign up 1 customer a week. And when you start reaching those goals, you want to increase that incremental goal by 20%. It's just a little bit above what you've already done, but it's not so great that it's something that you don't believe you can do, right? So 20% increase in your goals. Some people might say 30% increase. And then you have after that, any additional statements that you want to put in your visualizations. But it's so important to really have a purpose, to what you're telling yourself every morning. And if you want that big house on the beach, or if you want that new car in the driveway, or if you want to take the vacation of a lifetime, right? It doesn't happen. You don't pull it out of the air like magic, right? It starts with these incremental goals and building your business. And then being aware of the people that you're attracting, because the more that you attract these higher end people into your lives, because you're telling yourself that you're looking for like-minded people that have a great work ethic. And as you start seeing more and more of these people show up in your life, you'll realize that it's going to be much easier for you to build that the business that you have dreamt of, right? So with that, that is my training on visualization and goals. I am here to help each and every one of you guys. If you want to sit down and put together a strategy for your daily visualizations, please reach out to me privately, because I would love to go through this with you. If you have limiting beliefs that are standing in your way, that you're trying to interrupt the pattern of, let's write those out in a way that you can put them in your visualizations. And the last thing I want to say is, like, visualization is a piece of the puzzle, right? It's a strategy, but it's an important strategy that most elite performers, athletes, and top earners use every single day. And it's not like magic, right? But it's a way of putting a organized purpose to your daily activities. I'm a big believer in this, and setting the goals that are appropriate for how I want to grow. And I hope that each and every one of you guys got something out of this. And if there's anything that I can do to help, I would love for you guys to reach out to me. And with that, I'm going to thank you for sharing the last half hour with us on a Saturday morning. I know your time is important, and waking up on Saturday morning and spending it with us here is pretty amazing. And I really appreciate that, that you guys have. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and close out the day. And you guys have a great weekend. And I will be posting this with that visualization chart on the various websites and WhatsApp chats. And we'll go from there. So you guys have a great day, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Bye, everyone.
Great job.
Bye.